Welcome to my show. Welcome to my channel. This is the Judah Buddha Room, and this video is about the lionsgate porthole. I'm gonna break it down a little bit here. Um, the lionsgate porthole is not up and outside of you. It's not like outside of your consciousness. It's inside of you, which we know everything within and without, as above, so below. But there's a lot of interdimensional knowledge that one must know to truly understand the lionsgate porthole. People looking at off-planet lions, let's say, or people looking at themselves as being connected to the cats, or stuff like this. There's been a lot of manipulation caught up in the New Age light working syndrome when it comes to animals and when it comes to things. People saying that they have spiritual animals. They have lions, they have dragons, and they have all of these animals. But in true reality, if Mother Earth was hijacked, you were hijacked. The animals were hijacked. The spirit, the water of Mother Earth was hijacked. So people on a frequency level, when it comes to animals and when it comes to Mother Earth, there's a lot of talk, because in true reality, this, where we are located energetically, is in the mix of the fall. And there's a lot of shit that takes place during these times, and a lot of repeating of history. This is a time of history repeating itself, as in, people, the Lionsgate porthole, people aren't able to really connect the dots of understanding timelines and what these animals are connected to in history. People know of like the throwing the Christians to the lions, or Judah, Lion of Judah, or Vishnu, stuff like this. But when it comes to, this is mainly for Americans. America being the Turtle Island, being the first piece of land out of the water, and all of this good stuff. People have heard of it, but people can't comprehend it because they don't have the animals. They don't have the frequency of understanding all of these timelines without doing the research and trying to understand, all of these timelines. And so we have all this stuff and all these people where people have been taken away from their true being of who they are and where they come from, due to the manipulation of the sacred waters and the rainbow within. And so I have a map here, which is it's easier to look at the map and understand the road traveled. Because if you tell someone without showing them at the same time, it's confusing, because people don't have the inner sight of imagination to bring them into another realm. But this video here and this map will blow people's minds because of of the truth of history, of what took place on, on America and all of these timelines. All of these timelines that come together and merge together. So I'm going to move on to the map here. Okay. Welcome to Turtle Island, or half of Turtle Island. Okay. So we're going to take it back to the tree. There's a tree here. There's a tree of life. Okay. We fell. Well, first we'll take it, break down some of these lines here in the northeast. We have the First Nation ley line up here that runs through the mounds. Up here, we have the Serpent line that runs from Alaska all the way down across the mound. Over here, we have the Kachina line that runs across the mound. Over here on the East Coast, we have the Arcadian line, which runs all the way up and down the temples and all the way up there. Okay. We have the Bermuda Triangle. We have the First Nation line that goes out to the Pleiadians, out to Lemuria and stuff. And what, when you really get into it, of getting back into history, we know of the wars. We know of the White Devil coming to America. We know what happened to the Mayans. But a lot of the history, a lot of the truth was wiped out, because there's, in true reality, everything that you know of across the pond, as in Egypt, in the Nordic times, and it's not just over there. It's not outside of you. It's all within, and it's all within this piece of land right here. We know, if you go back into history and you look at all the sacrificing and what has taken place, but in the symbolism of things, when they talk of these pyramids, okay, when they talk of these pyramids, everyone looks down into Mexico and Peru and everything down there, okay? People don't look up here because they can't see it. They can't see, you have the mounds, you have this stuff here, but what took place here was going on a lot longer than what was taking place down south, South America, because there's only one path from Atlantis to Lemuria. Let's say there's only one path from Babylon to Zion, one path from the city to the mountains, from Egypt, so the things that have taken place here over generations and over hundreds of years, a lot of stuff took place here on the East Coast before they even were able to make it west, because you have the East Coast and you have Atlantis and you have the destruction of Atlantis, and there's old land here on the East Coast, and it's here from the cataclysms, it's here from the space wars, it's here from the destruction of Atlantis. And when Atlantis fell, the desert was created. Egypt was created over there. But when it comes to pyramids and when it comes to stuff, the pyramids were here on this line. Okay, you had a lot more, but in the Arcadian line, the line being all up in here. So there's so much symbolism when it comes to Philadelphia and Delaware. And you look at today's reality of this president, of where he's located and stuff. And, we take it back to the time of the fall and when Atlantis fell and the people ended up in Africa, let's say, on that side of the globe, and on the islands and stuff. And then here on the East Coast, let's say, we're on the West Coast of Atlantis. And there were tribes here on the East Coast of America. This is Naga land. These are the Nagas. But when it comes to the tribes and when it comes to the shift in consciousness, and you look at the Bermuda Triangle, and this stuff is all connected to New Zealand and Australia, and everyone knows that. Some people do know the connection to that, but the symbolism of this, of Philadelphia, and Philadelphia being Delphi, and the Mason-Dixon line being a line like them trying to come out of the underworld and trying to map. So, like, so they came out of the east, the White Devil, and all this stuff, and building Philadelphia, looking like Egypt, and you have the Mason-Dixon line and the Philadelphia experiment, and all this craziness stuff that has gone on here in Philadelphia for hundreds of years. But in true reality, it goes back to a time of before. And so the reasoning for everybody traveling west, in a way of running from the church, in a way, from like across the pond, but everybody also running from the church and suppression here on the East Coast of America. The battles that took place here is beyond comprehension. Like I said, there's this Arcadian line here. This is like, the temples. And so when you get up here into Philadelphia and the art museum being in the shape of the Kabbalah, and you have the symbolism, you have the volcano here right outside of Philadelphia, you have your symbolism of the Phoenix rising, you have your temples in the woods. This is the Rosicrucian location here in America. But when you get into the symbolism of the Amish in Pennsylvania and the 40th parallel, okay, see here, all this took place in the Northeast and everything, and you have the Civil War and Gettysburg and all of this stuff that took place in Philly, and there was a reasoning why it was Philly, because it's a porthole from the fall. If the people fell into Egypt, that is the fallen reality. If you look at it outside of yourself, over there across the pond. So in this timeline, people running, and for hundreds of years, and everybody coming to Philly wanting to be free. It's due to in Egypt and Greece, in the fall, going through the tribe of Judah, who is the Scottish Rite, and having the Illuminati and the Freemasons hijack the teachings of the temple is what it is, and manipulating the divine feminine and stuff like that. This going to Scotland, going to Ireland, out of Egypt type thing, traveling that way, is the feminine being burnt on the cross and the iron shield going away. Okay, what this is referencing is the iron shield, the sacred waters going away, the iron shield of these temples, the iron shield of the people that you know of and that you heard of Jamaica. It's the whole thing has been manipulated because the people don't come from Africa. They're like a French Ireland tribe. It's the truth, because the people were darker in Europe and darker in Scotland. And when you think of the tribe of Judah, the lion does not belong to the white people. The lion does not belong to the white people. You have no culture. You don't even know where you come from. You're just hijacking other people's cultures, like the Native Americans, because in reality you don't have a clue. So the way that this works is, what happened here is, in true reality, there's only 3 tribes. There's 3 tribes, and here on the East Coast is the tribe of Judah. East Coast, the lion roams, Pennsylvania being the home of the cats, being the home of the lions, okay? This is symbolism into the gate, the lionsgate porthole, okay? It is mapped on Mother Earth. It's just, you don't know. And you see these lines here, okay? So them coming from the east here, you have the Mississippi, and you see this white line going up and down up here. You can see, because everyone knows of the pyramids under the water, all over here under the water, and then you got ones on land. These are crystal diamond pyramids that already have been activated from the Gulf to the Great Lakes and to Philadelphia, and out here to a secret location in Southern California. But it's all being able to see it in higher frequency. So we had these battles over here on the East Coast. There were temples. There was a huge temple here in Pennsylvania, probably in the shape of the Sphinx. Okay, there was probably a huge Sphinx. Okay, because the allegory and the symbolism of what needs to happen and what needs to take place to enter a temple, just like in Egypt, enter the pyramids, one must go through the mouth of the lion. Because in the symbolism, because you have the lion on the East Coast, you have the serpent mount. Then after that, you have the bird tribe. Okay? Then you have up here in the north, the unicorns. Okay? This is all connected to the British Isles, to Ireland, to Scotland, and all this stuff. And beforehand, those islands could have been closer to us, just like Australia and New Zealand and stuff like this. So, the First Nation line is the line traveled out to the Maria, in a sense. So if you have the line here in Pennsylvania, you have the Serpent Mound, you have the 40th parallel, which is I-80, which is the 40 years in the forest, because you're going from this hell over here on the East Coast, out of hell and into the desert, into Utah. And then traveling west, you're going to go out over the Rainbow Bridge, out into Hawaii, into Lemuria, and stuff like that. This is where the Rainbow Bridge, because there's a pyramid here. Like I said, there's a pyramid on the back of Turtle Island, and there's an entrance and there's an exit. But you have to go into the lion, into the serpent, transition the serpent, and go into. This is into the temple, okay? Because inside you have the mounds. Let's say you have the mounds and all of this stuff here, but it's a mystical thing, and the sacred waters, the water serpent, the rainbow serpent, the temples here are also up here. Star forts, people know of them, in certain ways they're even bigger than what you see, because this battle, they knew what was taking place. And so, let's see here, where we at? The Kachina, the blue Kachina. So the blue Kachina came from the universe, came from heaven. And as the time of China was setting up to come to the west coast of America, the blue Kachina blew up all of their ships out of the water. And then the blue Kachina came over the four corners, over the Great Lakes, and ended up somewhere up in here. Not gonna, there's rumors King Arthur, Merlin, came down, and all the Druids came. So you got Ireland and all that stuff over there. But when you think of like the 1500s and the medieval times, that timeline was also here in America. So when you look at Massachusetts and you look at Salem and all the witches and all this stuff, because all this area up here is all witchy stuff. And, you get into Pennsylvania, this goes way back, So they came out of the blue Kachina to protect the mound, to protect the entrance into the temple, into Mother Earth, because this East Coast is the fault. All of this stuff here on the East Coast, this is old stuff. And the occult, Philadelphia being built on top of Temple of Apollo, the Philadelphia experiment where they made the naval ship disappear, because they're building their metaverse. They're building their metaverse in the area. And this is all about leaving Egypt, going into Scotland, and then coming out of Scotland and going through Philadelphia, coming out of Philadelphia, and then going through the mouth of the lion, the Sphinx, into the temple. See, but there's a lion at the gate. You can't travel to the west spiritually in any of these directions down here along the 33rd, because this is pretty much a sacrificing belt. I would call it the fake religion, the hijacking of the people, all this stuff that they did down here with their hijacking the Nagas and creating the false religion. Because when people run, they run to the mountains, they run to the north. And if you look at freedom, and if you look at concerts, and you look at rainbows and stuff like that, people look at it, I'm going to say San Francisco, because people know of San Francisco. But there's a beginning point to the rainbow. There's a beginning point. Where is the gold? Right? So if you're trying to find the path, the material path, which is also the spiritual path, because all of your symbolism is here in the circles, triangles, and all of this stuff. The material path out of Babylon, out of Egypt, through the lion's mouth, and where else? So the how do we put it? The stars are mapped on the back of Turtle Island. Okay. Prophecy stuff. So, in my perspective, we're gonna just talk about the Pleiadians and Orion's belt, because these are two main points that I know of for a fact. And the Pleiadians being, here at the First Nation, kind of like, and on the mound, this is like the ecliptic line. Okay, this is like the ecliptic line that runs all up here. Now, there's very specific points of where they're on this map here. Let's say from New York to the mounds, all the way out to Mount Shasta, of holding down the light, the Pleiadian frequencies. So, but when it comes to Orion's belt, because there's Egypt here in America, the Mississippi is the Nile River. The three parts, the three symbols that is outside of the temple. One is the lion, one is the obelisk, and the other is a palm tree. But there's only one entrance. The other two, so you got to go through the mouth of the lion. That's in Pennsylvania. Then you go into DC, you got the obelisk. But then you go into Florida, hey buddy, you got the palm tree. And that's all connected to the Bermuda Triangle and Atlantis and Lemuria, and being connected to New Zealand and all of this stuff. It's hard to comprehend what it all is. Come on. So it's just a little breakdown of this map, because this is about seeing interdimensionally, because we know, I got books, audio books of stuff from the 16 and 1700s that talks about the land of Judah being Pennsylvania, first man coming out of Philadelphia area, the first mountains being up in Canada, the second mountains being in Pennsylvania. So you look at way back in the day, this land was all islands. So, we're ascending, and this bridge comes out of, the people on the East Coast need to go through, this is a spiritual journey, but it's also a material journey, because spirit comes first. Everybody came to Philly, so everyone wanted to travel the 40th parallel. pagans, Amish, so you're going in this direction and entering the mouth of the lion, over the Serpent Mound into Utah, and then out to the Maria through another porthole, through Lake Tahoe and the Emerald Green Ray. Because we are on some old land. Old land. Goes back a long time. And this thing over here, people on the West Coast can't see, they don't know. It's like everybody on the West Coast on the other side of the Mississippi is in a different time, is in a different dimension. People want to be free. People want to act free. They don't want anything to do with this religion that has come from the East. They don't want anything to do with the government. This is all part of it, of what happened in the 60s, where people went east, went west. They didn't know, but the rainbow was returning, and that's what's going to be next. It's going to be like a new hippie era, because that's all it is. It's a love frequency for Mother Earth. So this is just a little breakdown of this map. So have a good day.